This is GBN, the Glenda Broadcasting Network. We want to say thank you so much to our news anchors for taking us through the news. And now it's time to go beyond the headlines. You would have heard the headlines tonight, and for the past couple of weeks, we are looking at what those headlines were. I am pleased to present Beyond the Headlines this evening. Our panelists are Mrs. Glenda Mason-Francis. She's an educator. I would not refer to her as a former principal. She's an educator, will always be. Mr. Randal Robinson, he's a musician and he's a cultural enthusiast. We are not going to use the word activist. We find that's being loosely used these days. So no activists here tonight. Junior George, he's a mass band promoter. I like to call him a correspondent on Diaspora Affairs. Junior is joining us via Zoom. Hi, Junior.
How are you?
I am very well. And in studio, Randal, it's great to have you.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and thank you very much for the invitation. And to all of you out there, good night.
And to our good principal and educator, Mrs. Mason-Francis. Mrs. Mason-Francis, it's wonderful to have you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here this evening again, and I would like to say good evening to all our listeners and those looking on.
Great, and I'm very happy that for the first time in about 12 and March, April, May, June, July, August, for the first time in 17 months, we are having guests in studio. We know because of COVID-19, we've always been having people since March last year on Zoom, and for the first time, we are having guests in studio. So Randal and Mrs. Mason-Francis, you are blessing me this evening.
Well, look at that.
Right, so having introduced our panelists, this evening we're having a cultural exposition, and let's not mix up that word with exhibition. We are going to be positing on a lot of issues that have come to the fore in the last 6 or 8 weeks, because we know it just wasn't last week, Monday and Tuesday, it was every weekend. So that's what we'll be doing tonight. Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll come right back.
Each of us has a role in Grenada's successful recovery. We have the will to overcome. We are strong. Together, we are Grenada.
Hills and Valley Pharmacy offers both wholesale and retail pharmaceutical and over-the-counter products. We have the most competitive and affordable prices. We are the agents for Vit Plus multivitamin for healthy everyday lifestyle and Sonatrogen powder. Hills and Valley Pharmacy supplies the best quality, name brand clinical products such as Rescue Oil, Bio Oil, Neutrogena, Aveeno, and Clarisil. We offer the most convenient opening hours. Our telephone numbers are 435-6904 or 6903. Remember, at Hills and Valley Pharmacy, your health is our business. We care.
Now open, Hills and Valley Medicare Center, your one-stop for medical supplies, massage therapy, physiotherapy, and an in-house physician. At Hills and Valley, your health is our business.
Get Rubigas. Get cooking. Rubigas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Rubigas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Rubigas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Rubigas?
Get Rubis, get going.
We support you at every stage of your life.
For business.
For your education.
For your financial freedom.
For that new ride.
Upgrade your life with the Communal. Contact us today.
The Culture Cold Store wishes to advise the general public and its customers that the company will be closed on Tuesday, August 17th at 12 p.m. to facilitate an important general staff meeting. The wholesale office and mini-mart will resume operations at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, August 18th. Island-wide sales via the trucks and vans will also resume as per normal on Wednesday, August 18th. The Country Cold Store apologizes for any inconvenience that this temporary closure may cause and thank the general public and all its customers for their cooperation and understanding.
And welcome back. We introduced our panelists before, so we get right into the discussions. So I'm going to start at my immediate left. Randal, we will revisit some of the highlights of Carnival that never was. We'll pretend it never happened. But we saw this thing building since the end of May. Let's say June, the middle part of June. And what are your thoughts on what has happened in Grenada for the last 2 years? It was last year, 2020. We believe in Sates there was some kind of demon visit. And then this year, we don't know if the demon disappeared, but something happened. First, what are your thoughts on what happened last year and this year?
Odette, I think that I think we needed to level with our people. We needed to talk to our people, let them understand what was facing us. You know, those, if we're talking about last year, those were the heady days of infections every day and so on, and people were scared, and it looked like we kind of had a handle on it. And people decided, look, we're kind of safe and we want to go out. Ill-advised. But they did it anyway. Now, and then because it happened last year, and then we were boasting, oh, we have the thing contained this year, and so, and I mean, I was one of those who felt, you know, look, we have it contained, we could do something more internally because we have it contained at the borders. But then when you started to look around and to see what was happening in the world, you know, and with this Delta variant coming up and so on, you knew that it was just a matter of time. And so I think what we needed to be doing was to get our people into a practice of the protocols, you know, doing what is necessary, because if you wore your mask and social distance and so on and sanitized, it could keep you safe. At the same time, we did not work with our artists and so on. You know, Trinidad had these virtual shows that went on because you know that your people are going to want a little free up from time to time. So your artists need to be supported. So we could have created a venue somewhere, just one space, and invited the different artists to come in and to perform, and you know, people could enjoy it in their homes, and it would have taken the edge off, right? So that there was no going to be any out in the street carnival celebrations or anything, but you still had your artists. You could have had the best of both worlds and be safe. Instead, we didn't do that. And we have been kind of raising the temperature on people and talking about forced vaccinations and so on, and people putting their backs up. And you know, if we are students of Grenadian history, you know that people don't take kindly to that kind of thing. Yep. So we had that protest.
But okay, so in essence, you're saying what we had was protest. I'll follow up on that a little bit. Let me ask Mrs. Mason Francis in probably a minute. What would you say happened here last year, August, and this August? And we could go back, like I said, to June when all of this started.
What happened in Grenada? We had a total breakdown of law and order, especially this year. And I foresee serious repercussions for our young people. I would like to ask the question, or to make a statement. older people are supposed to be examples for the young people in all areas of life. And I will ask the question, are we or have we older people been examples for younger children? And nowadays, all you hear from people, when you hear it all around you, are all your old people in step down and give young people a chance. Time for you all to move out and give us a chance. What we fail to realize, everybody gets old. And each generation is supposed to train and teach the next one, pass on the baton for them to follow. Is this happening?
So, a total breakdown of law and order. Junior, in your words, we know that you live in the United States, but right now, let me just expose your business. You're in a Caribbean island. If you think I should give your exact location, I'll get a thumbs up from you, but you're not in New York, where you normally reside when you're not in Grenada. So, our correspondent of Diaspora Affairs, World Affairs, you sat outside and you looked on as a Grenadian, and your thoughts?
Well, I think most people in the diaspora saw it as some sort of protest, right? We're social beings, human beings. We would like to associate. We like to be a part of. It's harsh to be away from people. And for the past year or so, people have been locked down, not only in Grenada but around the world. And I think it was just coming out. People just needed to come out and just outburst. I think it was a protest. And I am from the school that see it on both sides. I see it as, one, people needed to outlet themselves, needed to celebrate, needed to that time to just outlet what they had in them. But at the same time, I see it from the point of view where, from the government as well, because as far as if something were to go wrong and one person was to get into the midst of a big group of people, what would the healthcare system be like then? So I see from both schools, Odette, it's a protest and people needed to get out, but at the same time, I don't think the best sense prevail in all instances, and I'll explain it a little bit later though.
All right, Randal, I see you nodding, so I'm tossing straight at you. You're nodding at what he said.
Yes, there was a protest, and I understand that. You know, I lived through 1974. I saw what happened when Gary tried to ban jab, and everybody came out and everybody played jab that year. And so, I mean, I remember that like yesterday. However, we're in the midst of a pandemic. You know, we had to find creative ways to be able to give people an outlet, but do it safely. And that is why I was saying that we needed to support our artists. We needed to be able to give the country something to rally behind, but rally in your home, you know, and be safe. What we look at this, and I mean, we're hearing now the reports of people being found positive going back home who were in this. So I'm on my knees harassing the mercy seat, Odette, that we don't have community spread in Grenada, because if we do, we're going to have a problem.
But Randal, we're talking about finding some kind of happy medium.
Yes.
How would you have stopped? You said, look at this, and we had some footage on the screen just now. How would we have stopped that? How would we stop that?
Because you had to have put your foot down from jump. There was not going to be anything like this out on the street at any point in time. And it had to be stopped. And we have seen it happen in the other islands. They were able to stop it.
Stop it how?
By restricting that kind of activity.
How?
You just don't give it any permission. And anytime you see it happen, you punish those who are involved in it. And you do that early, Odette. This thing was building, over months. And we didn't stop. We did not stop. We let it happen in village after village after village, and it just continued to escalate and escalate and escalate till the police hands tied. You can't do anything now. You have everybody in. People might be upset with me for saying what I'm saying, but if we have to keep people safe, You can't encourage this kind of behavior.
But who encouraged it? And Mr. Francis, I'm coming to you to help Randal here because I don't think Randal is helping me. I'm the police, and all these throngs of people, as a policeman, I'm telling you, if I'm a policeman, I cannot arrest a black jab. He is slippery, they're smooth, it's a throng of them. How do I get in the middle of black jab and arrest them? Explain that to me, Randal.
You see, Odette, I believe, again, in the education process and getting people to understand what we were facing as a nation in terms of being in the middle of a pandemic, we fell down in the management of that, and we allowed these activities to take the fore. And it started with one. It didn't start with everybody out on the street. It started with one little pocket here and one little pocket there. And as soon as people hear, gosh, we know Grenada.
Well, I feel you're going home by me because, it's easy for y'all to call Willis' name. In the interest of full disclosure, I am a proud resident of New Hampshire, but I did not sanction what happened at Willis, which is a subsection of New Hampshire. Mrs. Mason Francis, could we have No, because I hear some people say, oh, they're attacking me. All they talk about Willis, But anyway, that's a whole different story. Mrs. Mason Francis, how could we have curbed this?
This is a breakdown where we as adults, in my opinion, failed in our duty. Older people are supposed to control younger people. Parents are supposed to control their children. When the parents broke the law and encouraged their children to do so, this is a breakdown of law and order. And it is each individual, the adults, the younger people, have to blame themselves for what happened in Grenada over the past couple of weeks. At this point in time, it is not to lay fingers, forget politics, everything. We, as the people in our country, who should be the ones keeping ourselves away from danger and safeguarding ourselves, we did not do this. It doesn't make sense pointed hands at who is responsible, who is not responsible. We are all responsible.
We are all responsible. Junior, how you were appointed Prime Minister of Grenada, and you were responsible as the Minister of National Security to keep a curb and to keep a lid on this thing. What would you have done as the Minister of National Security to hand down to the security forces how this thing should have been controlled?
Well, back to what Randal said, it's very difficult to, in opposition to what Randal just said, I should say, it's very difficult to arrest a set of jab, 10,000 jab. You can't arrest them all. So I don't see how that could have stopped. I think that what needed to be done is possibly allow for some outlet of energy. So even if you allow for a small backyard affair, a small village affair, something small and contained, so then it would at least give people an opportunity. But when it reached to where it is right now, there is no way that police force or the RGPF could have moved in and just start arresting people. It wasn't going to work. No way it's going to work. So I think as you alluded to, Odette, give people, even if you have to allow for small gathering of pockets of people, a small celebration, and let it be contained like that. Because what we're seeing on the screen there right now is where it's uncontrollable. And at this point, nothing that anybody could have done. And we saw what happened in Willis leading up, and we watched it, and we see that everybody knew that he would have come down to this. So to answer your question, if I was the Prime Minister and I had to give advice to my security forces, I would have allowed small backyard type gathering to happen so people would at least have an outlet, so possibly would not have gotten to this. But when he got to this, I would not advise my security forces to go on and arrest people. I think that would have been the wrong approach. And that did not happen, by the way.
But you see, I have heard a lot of people saying to me, well, Ms. Campbell, you see, we have double standards in the country. Because you are talking about, and I hear Randal alluding to backyard and small contained events, which I understand that some people were told you can do this at Willis, or you can do this in some village. And when you get to St. Andrew, you're not allowed to go to Grenville, you're allowed to go to Pearl. So if you tell people in the villages that, and they could go to Pearls, What do you expect, Junior?
Yeah, but again, see, I see this in two different ways. I see both sides of this conversation, right? I see that people really need to have an opportunity to outlet all that is inside of them for this time frame, right? I see that. And just like managing expectation, people last year, they told everyone that look out for Carnival this year. Probably that was a mistake back then because they didn't know if he was going to have Carnival or not, right? So he didn't have Carnival this year, and people had that anticipation. People, we are jabbed. We all expect that. So I see it from that perspective. People just needed to get that out of the system, right? But at the same time, I appeal to a lot of my friends not to do it, not to go out and play, because it just takes one person to be in the midst of a jab ban, and that one person is carrying COVID and infect 10, 15, 20 people, and it's spread like wildfire. So that's something I advise my friend to do. In fact, I told him, don't go out, please, don't be a part of it. But I still, at the same time, understand what transpired here today. It was a build-up, and it needed to be outlet, and that's what happened here on the road in Grenada.
All right, and I'm coming to Randal, but let me say, you're talking about you told some of your friends not to be a part of it. What I was told to my face by some friends from New York is, Odette, we are here, they ticketed us, they're going to give us more tickets, and we're going to be back in New York. When they're looking for us in court, they won't find us. So that was one of the attitudes of your fellow New Yorkers, Junior. You send them down, right? Hey, we're good friends. Randal, what's up with that?
On a point of clarity, though, Junior, what I was not expecting that the police were going to be able to arrest 10,000 jabs, not at all. I'm saying when this started, and it started in April and May, with people practicing jab in little pockets in different areas of the country, that should have been tamped out. That's what I'm talking about. That should have been tamped out. If we say no carnival, then it's no carnival, right? But we had opportunities to be able to give people an outlet, whether it be, on a weekly basis or whatever. I see people running through the river, all kinds of things. To have you had to find a creative way to be able to get people's pent-up frustrations and so on to come out. It's the carnival season, and we expect that. So find a way, support the artists, make it safe so that people could have a little thing in their homes, log on your computer, or probably GBN could have brought a little segment every week, or whoever television station and so on, where an artist comes and would a little concert, you could say, or whatever, on a weekly basis, so people could enjoy it in their homes. And so that's what I'm talking about, to be able to take the edge off, while saying that we don't want these people congregating anywhere for the carnival season. Yet, Odette, the thing has turned into what vaccinated and unvaccinated events, and 80% of the people not vaccinated, and they feel a pressure on them and so on. So they decided, look, revolt. And here we are.
Mrs. Mason Francis, you want to?
Can I say something?
Definitely.
St. Vincent didn't have carnival. Barbados didn't have carnival. Canada didn't have what they usually have. Caribana.
Notting Hill is out.
Dominica and so on, no. And there was no problem. Grenada was different in that, I am saying it plain out, it had a lot of political implications in what happened in Grenada. People rebelled. What did they rebel about? And we have to keep this in mind. The other islands right next door to us just didn't have carnival and nothing happened. But why was Grenada different? It was a build-up and promoted by some of us say, about certain things. And people already wanted to, so they just gave vent to their feelings and everybody went wild. But my concern is what is happening now after, when the carnival over. You're talking about that.
And rightfully so, Odette, if I might butt in right here, it's right that St. Vincent didn't have carnival, Antigua didn't have carnival, but what they did have was protests. Antigua had massive protests. It probably wasn't on the same topic as what Grenada might be protesting on, but they did have protests. St. Vincent had ongoing protests dating back months now, right? And as I said initially, I saw this, and a lot of Grenadians see this as a protest, an opportunity to outlet to whatever they had in them to say, they had to say. St. Vincent protest was about the enactment or the implication that they was going to enact the mandatory vaccination. Antigua protest. There was a widespread protest of the islands. That was Grenada saying all these things in the job, right? That was Grenada articulating that same sentiments in the job. So that's why I said that I think it was more of a protest.
But protest, but you didn't see anybody carrying any banner with any kind of messages saying what they were protesting against. So what
they were. People was wearing placards. That's how job protests. They came out with it. Some people had placards, and they in a different way than how they did it in St. Vincent and in Antigua, but they protest.
Mrs. Basic,
and some of them protest. Some of them people protest because of employment, lack of employment. Some people protest because of the vaccination and the mandatory vaccination, and people who losing their jobs because of vaccination. Some people protest because they just wanted to be on the street and they didn't have Carnival for a long time. So all of these messages was conveyed in Carnival this year. But I believe firmly that it was more of a protest. People needed their voices and their anger and whatever they had, the frustration to get out there.
Mrs. Mason Francis, you mentioned it had political undertones. You want to expound on that further? What do you mean by that?
I don't think I will go into details about that. I mean, we are all here in Grenada, and we see what's happening from one day to the next and so on. People talking, people saying this, people replying, people, and our technology and things like that. I mean, on the currents now that, it's... For me, as an old person who have gone through years of all this sort of thing in Grenada, it's a very unsettling situation. And people just sort of waiting for one little thing to see the reaction and this sort of thing. So you just sort of sometimes you have to ignore things, and not everybody could ignore things and let it be. They react, and then when you react, well, all hell breaks loose.
Randal, do you agree that what happened here was not celebration, it was protest?
There was protest? I think most of it was protest. Most of it was protest. Look, we're going out. They say we can't play jab, we can't do this, we can't do that. And we're going to do it, and we're going to show them that we're going to do it. And we were out on the street, and they had a grand time. And the funny thing about that is that the VECO came out and played too, right? So it wasn't just jab. You had VECO. Somebody tell me about a pretty mass band, but I didn't think that happened. I think that was just about
There were pretty mass. We had some footage. I'll try to. We had a VECO as well. The VECO, as a producer, there's a story there that we call Monday Night, Sunday into Monday, that has some of the VECO in that. We'll try to look at that as well. Junior, some of your friends from New York, who you beg, please, to stay away from this. They reported to me, some people at New Hampshire reported to me that in the weeks leading up to what should not have been Carnival, that they got tickets. And some people say, listen, is ticket R? And so a particular person was asked to repossess the tickets. Is that where we come up with the issue of double standards, and have some of your friends from New York reported that to you as well?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of that. I know that there were ticket that was issued, and some people say that they would take the ticket because they just had to play mass. Mass must play, as they say. But I'm not aware of. One thing I wanted to touch on really quickly, Odette, I think what we really need to be focused on, right, and need to be spoken about is the COVID-19 and how it has been sweeping through other areas drastically and killing thousands of people. And just to bring it into perspective really quick, if you would allow me to, let's look at a place like India. And that is the kind of information that I think need to get out there so people could weigh out the risk versus the celebration. In India, in June 20th, let's look at June 9th. Let's go June 20th of 2021. 4,000 people died of COVID-19 in India. 4,000. And if we really put that into perspective, that's like about 19 jumbo jets falling out of the sky in one day, right? Think about it from that perspective. And I think if we understand that, that is like wiping out the population of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique within about 2 to 3 weeks or so, because it increased, it went up. So I think if people really understand and see again, this is serious stuff. People are dying from it, probably not in the numbers that they're dying from it in India, but Italy had their share, the United States had their share. I think people would weigh the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, and realize, well, probably it didn't make all that good sense to expose myself and expose my family to something like this. That's why I see it on both sides. I see that people need it to outlet, but at the same time, this type of information, people need to understand that people are dying from this. This could wipe out populations. This is killing hundreds and thousands and millions of people. And more people understand that, I think that they will make better decisions, and they would have made, probably some of them would have made better decisions going forward if they know and understand what's happening outside in the outer part of the world.
All right, so you spoke about the money, right? And I'm only laughing because I saw one of the jabs saying, whatever it is, we'll pay. So before we take a commercial break, let me ask the producer, I think that one was in the standoff at, I think it's in the standoff to Paradise. Let's take that. If it's not that, we'll go back to it. But let's listen back to that report.
From Tivoli, Carrier and Hermitage congregated and marched toward Grenville on Monday morning in total defiance against the cancellation of Spice of the Carnival holidays. About halfway on their journey, the grouping got even larger as the Lafayette Jab Band linked up with the already massive band in Dunfermline. Minutes later, there was a standoff with the police. However, the final standoff occurred on Paradise Bridge. The Eastern Division of the Royal Grenada Police Force first engaged in a standoff at Dunfermline as they sought to reroute the Jab Band to Pulse. They quickly relocated to the Paradise Bridge. Officers attached to the Rapid Response Unit and the Special Services Unit assembled at the Paradise Roundabout and set up a blockade with 4 vehicles in front of the Paradise Bridge.
About to unfold, live and direct. Mr. Prince! It's about to unfold. It's about to unfold, Grenada. It's about to unfold the rest of the world. Right here in Paradise Junction. GBN is here live and direct.
The revelers refused to be tamed by the police and sought to press onwards to Grenville. Having broken the first line of defense, the Jab Band, being held at the second line, sought to bypass the blockade by creating a route through the river.
Jab in the river. Only in Grenada, people. Only in Grenada. They block the bridge, we go past in the river.
Eventually, the revelers ended their celebrations at the Pulse airstrip. I am Gerard Joseph for GBN News.
Randal, I'm tossing directly to you.
I'm really sorry for the police, and I was very sorry for the police. I mean, you know, it definitely was a protest. You know, people wanted, they were defying the authorities, and they're going to be doing that. And I think it was a matter of double standards. It was a matter of not dealing with these things when they started weeks ago in the villages to stop it. And once those big feds went ahead, Odette, there was no stopping this. There was no stopping this. And good takeaway from this is that nobody got hurt, nobody got arrested. No, they tried to contain it. And this was Monday, and I understand Tuesday was probably bigger, right? They were determined that it was going to happen, and it happened. Are we going to pay a price for it? Now that we're hearing about a supposed community spread of COVID, people who were involved in this, let's see. We're hoping it doesn't happen, but this is what we were trying to avoid.
So look at this on the screen, right? Yes, Miss Mason Francis, look at that guy aiming that wooden, and we'll try to see if we get a producer to go back. That is something that scared me. I mean, it is wooden, but it looked so real, and we're talking about protest. Is that what we're getting? Where people are taking up arms, Randal, Mrs. Mason Francis? It was a wooden make-believe assault rifle. I got scared. Is that what Grenada is coming to? Is that what next year we'll have a real live and direct one, Mrs. Mason Francis?
I have the question. Now the carnival over, what happened? What next, and what are the lessons to be learned? Now, I am being realistic, and I'm talking life as it is happening around us right now. Already we have situations where our young people start to say have very little respect for other people, and manners seem to be something of the past. What happened last week would just reinforce and emphasize this. Can you imagine when school opens and teachers go into classrooms, and a teacher tries to discipline a child, and the child looks up and says, "Sir or Miss, you can't tell me anything, I saw you in the jab band." And that band, you were breaking all rules and regulations. It could happen. What happens after that? Teachers are supposed to be disciplinarians, principals. The schools have laws and regulations which you are supposed to reinforce and enforce. But when children lose their respect, they have already lost it for their parents. They're now losing it and have lost it, some of them already, for their teachers. So what is going to happen? We are now going into a situation of lawlessness where young people have no respect for older people. Who is maintaining law and discipline?
Interesting. Junior, you want to weigh in on this here?
Yes, she made a few key points. I just want to touch on one of them, as far as where she said that teachers in front of the class with students, and teachers been playing job for a long time. Principal play job too, not only this year but before. Not to belittle the point, but teachers and bankers and even policemen and women and television personalities and every politician play job as well. So that has been happening. I come back to my initial point to say that I think leading up to Carnival, I don't know if that was possible or if it could have been done to give people an outlet, is to have some small community activities so people stay in small pockets within themselves. And also, if we did have a situation where there were a higher percentage of vaccination, then the population would not have been so much on edge. Like, for instance, I live in New York. I'm there, and as you can see, that there is an easement of activities. People are going out and having parties because New York, the vaccination rate in New York is up to 77.6% among the elderly population. So people going out to party, and they don't really feel it because they trust the vaccine. A lot of people who took the vaccine, they trust the vaccine, knowing that yes, you could possibly catch the virus if you have the vaccine, but it's most likely that you would not have the severe reaction. You probably wouldn't be in the hospital or end up in the ICU. So with a population of low vaccination, it makes the population more on edge, knowing that, boy, we don't have much people vaccinated and everybody want to be out in the street. England again, and Odette, you know this well. Folks in England, the vaccinated population is also very high. There's an easement in terms of activities. They basically open up to do mostly anything. So you can't have it both ways. So I sound like I'm speaking on both sides, but both sides of a mouth, because I understand both sides of the argument. Why we shouldn't do it, but why some people feel like it was necessary that they come out and at least just let whatever they had in them out. And today, when the carnival over, I guess the question that you rightfully asked, and Wizard asked as well, what next? When the carnival over, what happened now?
But Junior, do you really want to sit there and responsibly seem to belittle the point? Because I never thought of it that way, but Mrs. Francis raised a very key thing. I'm picturing some students that I have in a Sunday school, and I had the police speak with a couple of them about not breaking the law. And this young, if you can't get them at this age to obey the law, then at 16 and 17, the police might come and ask me, Ms. Campbell, I need to come and bail these youngsters because I saw them in your Sunday school class. Randal, your take on the fact that a student could turn around and tell Miss, you can't tell me about not breaking the class rules because I saw you break the rules and the police said no job, you went out and had on the worst piece of clothes on you?
Well, yes, and if you can't explain that to a child, then you have a problem. And children always raise that mirror up to adults. Remember, we are the ones who are responsible for training them, and we have a serious breakdown in the society at this point in time. I remember when we were, the kind of esteem that teachers were held in. Like Miss Mason Francis was my teacher in GBSS. I still call her Miss Mason Francis, right? There are rules and there are norms and there are things that we inherit from our older ones. The older ones have provided the base for us. We are supposed to rise up on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. And from the time you cut them down and you decide that those mores and so on, things that we, supposed to keep us safe and build on, you want to discard all those foundations and you want to start from scratch. We're building a house on sand. And the minute that the high breeze blows, everything is going to come crumbling down. And this is what we see. We've seen a lack of respect across the board in society. And I was so upset. Well, people know my political affiliations and all of that, and so the Prime Minister may not be my friend, so to speak. He's my political opponent. But to see the kind of disrespect that was meted out against the gentleman and to the office of the Prime Minister, if we are to accept that, then whatever happens to us when we get into office, if we ever get into office, we have to accept it, right? There are certain things that that goes beyond the pale, and we must speak about it. And that is why we grew up. Miss Mason Francis and my mother and all of them and so on, who brought us this far, and we're supposed to take the mantle and bring us higher, not lower. And anytime we see we going lower, somebody has to speak out and say something. This is not the direction that we're supposed to be going in. I remember one evening I was driving through Monjaloo and I saw a little boy fighting with a girl on the side of the road. I stopped my car, got out, and I went to them. And I said, you can't be putting your hand on a little girl. That is not what we do. He said, but sir, she interfered me on this. That's why I spoke to the young lady and I said, my dear, it is not for you to be provoking, your friends in any way. But young man, even if she provoked you, you cannot put your hand on her, right? And I thought that was my responsibility because I believe I'm an elder. And if it is that we're not prepared to do that and we're not prepared to discipline our children, or we pass in and we see these things happen and we say it's not our responsibility, then we're setting ourselves up for problems.
We are setting ourselves up for problems, and this is where we'll take a commercial break, and we'll be right back on Beyond the Headlines. This evening is a cultural exposition. We are positing on the various issues that have transpired in Grenada in the last 8 weeks, especially last week, Monday and Tuesday. Stay with us.
What does it take to be an amazing woman? Lots of me time. Amazing women are classy, fancy, and a little sassy. It's the drink for me. Cheers! Sometimes you've got to show them who's boss. Alpha male? Nah, alpha females are more amazing. Cheers to securing the bag. We make time for ourselves, for work, friends, and we certainly make time for passion. We're simply amazing. Amazing cream liqueur for the amazing woman in you.
Introducing Color by Sissons. 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 Color by Sissons.
Imagine having the home of your dreams. Imagine investing in that piece of property you can call your own. Imagine finally doing that home improvement project you've always been thinking about. It's time to stop imagining and start doing. Let the GUT Credit Union help you take the first step with fantastic rates, affordable repayments, and reduced legal fees. Make the move. Get better terms on your mortgage. Use your home equity to make those dreams a reality. Act now. There's really no place like home. GUT Credit Union. It's where you belong. Hubbard's big promotion is back. Live free for 1 year. Spend $50 or more in any Hubbard's department and receive a chance to win big prizes every month. Property or vehicle insurance for 1 year. Free internet, cable, and data for 1 year. Free fuel for 1 year. Free cooking gas for 1 year. Free electricity for 1 year. Free drinks for 1 year. Extra cash account and the big free groceries for 1 year. Promotion runs from April 1st to September 30th, 2021. Live free for 1 year with Hubbard's in association with Solgas, Flow, Grenadian General Insurance, Carib Brewery, Coca-Cola, Grenada Bottling Company, Grenlec, Communal Cooperative Credit Union, Dutch Lady Milk, Promo, Danny and Supreme. Terms and conditions apply.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment as you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest. Visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening we're having a cultural exposition with our panelist, Mrs. Glenda Mason-Francis. She's an educator. Mr. Randal Robinson, he's a musician with one of the best voices you hear on the face of the earth, let me tell you that. And he's also a cultural enthusiast. Anything cultural, he's involved. And we have a Grenadian, we call him our correspondent on Diaspora Affairs, Junior George. He's based in New York, but I just won't give you his exact location. He stepped out of New York for a little bit, and it's really great to have him joining us via Zoom this evening. And I'm so glad to have company in the studio after being lonely in here for so many months, 12 and how much, 17 months. Tonight, for the first time, we're having guests in the studio live with us. So, Randal, Mrs. Mason-Francis, I'm eternally grateful to you. So, one of the the things that I'm hearing on social media is that we need to have young people on the panel. And let me just say to those of you who have made that observation, I agree with you 1,000%. We were trying to get a young person, especially one of the young people who are involved in promoting the mass with us. But unfortunately, that did not pan out. We just could not get somebody to agree. So let me just say to you, I give you my pledge, and I always say my word is my bond. If you can nominate and find 4 young people who are willing to come and talk to us and come on Beyond Headlines, it could be via Zoom, I promise you I'm going to have a program dedicated to the young people and to having their voices heard and theirs alone. I really think that you're on point with that observation. I commend you, and we really want to encourage a youth voice. It is just that when we approach people, people have been hesitant, especially the GBN has been accused of working with the police. When we go to cover these things, people say GBN filming for the police because the police is using high tech. There's been all kind of melee out there. So that's some of the difficulties we face when we try to do that. Some people are saying that when the people were young, or the people on the panel were young, they obeyed the rules and the regulations, they obeyed the law, period. Another person said when Bishop said no carnival, there was no carnival, full stop. Randal.
Yes, because that was the rule. You know, it's like your mother say, you're not going, and you're not going, you know. So there are rules, and you have to obey the rules. And when you don't obey the rules, you end up in problems, right? And this is the situation that we have now, and it's very, very unfortunate, but I find it too pervasive. I don't know, we have to pull this thing back. I don't know, there has to be some way. But a conversation, I believe, Odette, needs to be started. And I like the idea about the young people, because I think there is this generational gap that is widening. It seems like we don't understand the language of the young people. And as a young person myself, I understand, you know, the frustrations with older people when I was younger. But then as you get older...
You were young now, you know, like, okay.
I'm 58. I'm 58, Odette. I'm no longer a youngster. I'm 58. I still feel like 19, but my body knows it's 58.
I didn't realize that you had gotten to 58. You look so much younger than that. Oh, well done, Randal.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Good genes. Yes. But yeah, so we have to obey the rules, you know, but we have to have that conversation, because a lot of our young people are frustrated. They feel left out. They have done us proud. A lot of them have done very well at school and all of that, you know, Odette, and they're just home languishing. So there's a whole set of frustration, and I think we have to start to bridge that gap, bridge that divide, start having conversations, but beyond the conversation, whatever it is that we decide we must do for our youth, we have to execute. So I think that doing that now might ease the tension a little bit.
Ease the tension. Who is that?
You know, Odette, let me just say one thing on that. You know, I really applaud the Prime Minister of Barbados and how she coordinates things. Like, I remember there were protests in Barbados, and the next day they had a town hall meeting where she brought out the people who had difference of opinion to voice their opinion at the town hall meeting. I think absent of people being heard, you would find a lot of disagreement, and that builds up pretty fast because people talk and it just gets worse and worse over a period of time. So I firmly believe that small groups of, whether it's community leaders, politicians, church, whoever it is, coming together and hearing the voice of the young people, understanding why they are upset. What is the main thing that is really driving their anger right now? Have community meetings, whatever. I don't know if they do, but I'm saying if they don't, let this scream, let everybody shout, and let people let their anger out, and then and only then you'll get a chance to understand what they're going through. But if you don't have a conversation, people's anger is going to build and build, and it's going to get worse, and we'll see this, and we probably see more of this type of protest. So Mia Motley, I think she have the blueprint in terms of connecting with people, and I hope that would would spread out through the Caribbean regions as well, where you bring in people, you talk, you have consistent conversation with people that's mostly affected.
Mrs. Mason Francis, you wanted to weigh in on a point that was being made.
No, I just want to take us back a few years. When we talk about rules and regulations and so on in the home, starting from the home, with parents and children. And homes have rules and the parents tell you, so is the case. You just find you listen, you obey. If you disobey, you were punished. There was no having to give an excuse and you ask why and you're like, nowadays, we change through the ages. Now children will challenge the parent why and then the parent have to give an excuse. I'll give you two incidents. One in GBSS, let's take it first, and then another one in high school. GBSS, you had the rule in the school. Boys were not, the senior boys, because we had Form 6 in those days, not to attend adult functions. So there it was, a set of us were young members of staff. Carnival Sunday night at Richmond Hill. There was a dance there. Big people dance, adults. Some of us there from the staff, and then where we were standing, you could see the doorway. There we saw some of our sixth formers coming in. And we saw them before they saw us. One or two of them were even smoking. Well, school and rules of smoking. So when they caught up and saw us there, well, they had to continue coming forward. So when they came, one in trying to hide the cigarette nearly burned his hand. And then the question was asked by one of the men, "Gentlemen, what are you doing here?" So they gave a little fumble and so on and thing. And they again, "Will you please leave?" They were big men. In those days, the 19 and 20-year-olds in Form 6, they had to turn around and leave the dance. The next day when school opened, they were reported and they were suspended from school. Parents came and so on. Well, the headmaster had to let them know, well, you have the rules of the school and you know what to do, and so on and so forth. That was it. Another incident, when I was in high school, I don't know if you might remember. Remember, we used to have what we call blockos. Mm-hmm. And the school, I had that rule in the school, students of the school are not supposed to attend any blockos. Why should teachers and adults be going to a function and you have a little school child in the same function with you? These rules were for a purpose, And then you had again, the same students will come, "Miss, in the block, who was there, so and so, so and so." So you speak to them, find out what it is. If it requires suspension, then they suspend it because the rule of the school, and people obeyed their rules. So it started from there. Schools had rules. You go out into society, you had rules in the workplace, you had rules. And but everything now is a challenge. Everybody's to challenge everything. Why this, why that? But that is law and order in your society. And it starts from the cradle at home, and it moves up with you. And our generation, your generation, if you don't try now to maintain some sort of law and order with your children, and they go out into the society, as our people say, you're going to eat the bread the devil needs. So what we do is for the future.
And there I was getting very nervous when Mrs. Francis mentioned Anglican High School, because there was a time when she made a rule and I decided I was a woman, and I paid her I was just like, oh my God, no, not tonight. Thank you, Mrs. Francis, for not going there.
No, I can't remember.
Oh, Jesus, man, stop it.
I can't remember that. Well, the thing of it is, again, although people find, I was such a strict person.
Very strict, Mrs. Francis.
But I have a good relationship, still have the relationship with a lot of my students, male and female. Not because a person might be strict and they do things, but that love, my love for children, my love for teaching, that is why I was in it.
All right. So let's go back to our cultural exposition and to just let our viewers and listeners know that you can join the conversation by calling 435-2041, 435-2041. And we did say earlier today to people that this is a subject we were going to be discussing, and we got a lot of feedback while we see if we get some calls. One person said, my perspective, many times, given that the police are enforcers, they are usually put between a rock and a hard place, having to exercise discretion. The policymakers need to be placed in the shoes of the police officers who have to execute these laws when their strength is a very tiny fraction of the population. Can the police force of about 800 to 1,000 enforcement officers lock up or arrest 15,000 jab in multiple villages at the same time? Hats off to them. They handled well based on their capabilities. Since I was a little boy growing up, if you say no jab, that's a motivator to activate persons to be defiant from the late PM Sir Eric Matthew Gary to present, and we still haven't learned. In short, if we keep approaching things the same way, don't expect a different result. And we want to thank the person who graciously made that submission. We have a call on the line. Caller, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Greetings. The name is Citizen Rollo. I don't usually talk very much around the Satan season, but I'm obligated with the presence of Miss, good evening, to ask a question. Now, this issue is a very, very broad issue, and I would like to suggest that the nation open a general conversation on this quote-unquote jab, where it came from, when it proliferated in this here country, and what it means to us as part of our quote-unquote culture. But miss, I switched my computer on recently and keyed in there jab as mentioned in West Indian history, and I was led to some videos, and the first one was a Grenadian sounding, we have that particular we can identify, and he said that the slaves used charcoal powder and other white powder to mock and scare off the slave masters back there in the days of history. He went on to say, and this is the one that pained me, and I would like you to intervene from a historical point of view on it. He went on to say that when we play jab, we quote-unquote honor our ancestors. Miss, from a historical point of view, does this jab thing have anything to do with our history, ma'am? There are many more questions to be asked, but I'd like you to give us your view, because I know you're very good at that, and thanks for your orientation in my years of GBSS. Thank you, ma'am.
Mrs. Mason Francis, that is tossed in your corner.
No, the thing of it is, I heard it myself. Jab had nothing to do with emancipation and this sort of thing. Jab came in when, in the, perhaps the, okay. I am now 81 years old, and I knew jab when I was growing up as a child. Now, in those days, the jabs were little bands. You would have 2 people, 4 people, 6 people, perhaps 8. You didn't even have, like, say, 10 and 12 people in a jab band. And they came out, and children ran from jabs. My parents always tell me I used to spend it under the bed. Now children run to jab. You were afraid of jab in those days. Was these little groups. Then I remember when the band started coming in. That would have been in the 70s, 80s, when the numbers increased. Well, we all heard about that with when Gary said, and the police commissioner then, Mr. Harley or something, said something, and then the jab started. But again, Carnival, perhaps weak culture, if you want to say that, was more old mass. Juve was old mass. The jab band, by the time 8 o'clock, the jab band's gone, because the people had to go to work. And then they have to close early to go to pageant, where you had the parade of bands and so on. So these large bands now, as you talk about protests, and now we have all color jab, red, blue, yellow, green, all. large bands of jab-jabs. And the jab-jabs now have been taken away the whole mass. Even you might say short knee and the history bands. These perhaps could be our culture more too than jab-jab, because they were there long before. Then you have the Veku. I remember one year carnival, when Veku first came out and started coming to town, we were standing on the esplanade by NIS. And it was early, I mean, it was still dark outside. And all of a sudden you're hearing this clock, 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 clock. Everybody quiet watching around. And as they came nearer, and you should see people run. Because it was the first time the noise, just that noise of the feet on the ground and nothing else. Years ago to carnival, I mean, I straying know what carnival used to be. Bands used to clash in town, steel bands, you know, when the steel band clashed. And in those days where the guys wearing their pan around their neck, and then they push in the bass drums and so on, and they take out those pans and they're throwing it at one another when two groups, bands from different areas, the steel band clash. And all that was, well, that all agriculture too.
Yeah.
It used to happen then, but we have become more civilized. And mass coming down Market Hill, the most beautiful sight, yes. Those bands down Market Hill, that was our carnival. Changes.
We have evolved, and we have another call on the line. Caller, good evening. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Odette, and good evening to your panel. I just want to endorse what Junior George said about the Barbados Prime Minister. I myself always applaud her for her approach to leadership, because she doesn't talk, she talks with her people. She doesn't talk down to her people. And so she will have the support of her people because she speaks to them. She listens to them. And so they have a special relationship. And you don't see that. I think that's the only place I've observed this kind of relationship between the leaders and the constituents. But the other thing I want to speak about is, you know, you have our current parents who love their children to death. They love their children to death, and so all that they learned, they forgot what they learned, and they're not passing it on to their children because they love their children so much that they're not even correcting their children or guiding their children in the right way, because they're so much in love with these children, but they don't understand by giving up on the children or not leading them in the right direction, spiritually and socially, they are spoiling, they're making things worse for them because they wouldn't know how to function in the years to come. And that's what I want to share.
Thank you so much for that, caller. I'm going to ask the producer to cue for us Rewrote It to Pearls, because there's one little element that Randal would have addressed that I'd want to go through. If I believe it comes up in that story. But Junior, you're in New York and you're thinking, well, they're in Grenada and they're talking about all of this and the protests. But what happened to people like me who normally organize my amazing colors and there's no business for me? How has that impacted you?
Well, to tell you the truth, I weigh out the pros and the cons, right? And I think in this particular situation, it was a good decision not to have an organized carnival where we have all these people coming from all over the place to congregate into Grenada. And I think most people who organize mass like myself understood that. There will be time for mass. I think that there will be time for Monday night mass. There will be time soon in the near future where we're going to be revelers on the road again. We're going to be waving and having parade and meeting people again. But just this time is just not the right time. So I am not sitting here upset that there was no organized carnival. We didn't get a chance to play Monday night mass. Amazing Colors was not on the road battling with Carib and the Wagiti and them boys there. I think I understand. And I tell all our supporters, don't worry, we'll be back on the road again soon. In the meantime, let us take this time to figure out and analyze what is most important in our lives. And some people have gravitated from last year to now. A lot of people gravitated to church. A lot of people changed so much things about themselves. A lot of people not even into or thinking about carnival again. A lot of people are happy and waiting for that time to come. But me personally, I'm just telling my supporters and friends, let's just take this opportunity to see and reflect on what is the most important things in our life. So when that time come again, we'll decide. We'll be back on the road again.
All right, it'll be like a jamo on the road again. We have a call on the line. Caller, good evening.
Good night to Ms. Mason, and good night to all the panelists. I want to support Ms. Glenda Mason. I think what she said was quite true about long-time carnival and the build-up and so how it was organized. She was totally in place in that. But I think the authorities have to take some of the blame for what happened. There should not have been this double standard in it, and there was some double standard in it, and that is what is responsible for what happened. But I still believe that the persons who went and played mass and decided, okay, we're going to have mass by all means, I think that was irresponsible of them, and it doesn't face Grenada any good. We are in a pandemic, and all of us could have been paying for that. No. So it have not served Grenada any good. We are in a pandemic, and we should obey the rules and regulations. But the authorities were wrong. They let the guards down, and that is the result.
Thank you so much. Thank you. One of the questions that was asked earlier, if you were the police, what would you have done about the black jabs? Lock them up? Was it a rebellion, or was it a celebration? What does this spell for the future? One person says, I would lock them up. Does the government care about its young people enough, or have an institution big enough to criminalize them all? How practical would that be? Was it a rebellion or a celebration? It was a defiant reaction to a specified directive laid down by the government. The young people's reactions changed nothing. What does it spell for the future? The future spells short-term contracts and part-time work, no job security. Their homeland sold off to the highest bidders, serviced by the laboring hands of African people. Slavocracy and plantocracy, crime in harmony. We have a call on the line.
Yes, good evening to your panel, Mrs. Campbell. Let me begin very briefly, but firstly to acknowledge Mrs. Mason, whom I later came to be called Ms. Mason Francis. Like Mr. Robinson, she was also my teacher. In fact, she taught me Latin. And Mr. George, I want to say good evening to you. Let me be clear. I'm just making a few observations. In this situation, what we are facing here is a joint enterprise in which there are several foci of authority in the society. And each one of those focuses have to execute their responsibility. And I want to come to GBN because it's your program, and if we are going to get this right in respect of discipline, respect for law and order, and what happened during the carnival season, GBN, you bear a large responsibility for aiding and abetting in the undermining of the discipline. Your radio station kept the carnival atmosphere alive. It pumped up the people by playing. I mean, you turn on GBN in the morning, and I guess it's a generational thing because I no longer listen to it, right? Because of the standard that it has deteriorated to. But every day and every opportunity, whether it's the evening program with Godfrey, in the entire carnival period, you pumped up the society, keeping that carnival mood and that carnival atmosphere alive. First of all, your choice of music, the people you brought on to the community, etc. And doing this in the context of a pandemic which is going to kill people. Now,
Let me just ask one question.
Could I just finish because I don't want to be long. I just want to make one other
question. If you don't mind me asking you one question. You said you don't listen. So how did you hear that?
No, I don't. When I say it, well, I turn the radio on. I'm a news junkie, so I monitor news, right? And I know when to turn on and when to turn off. And sometimes you turn on a little early, but you're doing things. You're paying no mind to what is happening. But I am an activist of sorts, so I monitor the society as a whole, and this is why I was able to call you on Carnival Monday morning when your radio station was beaming live on Facebook Live, carrying to the world all of the obscenities in its most rawest form, obscenities hurled at the leader of the office of the state, was carried live on your radio station. In fact, how I knew that is because a manager of an enterprise called me and said to me, "Are you listening to GBN?" I said, "No, news has already gone, so I'm not listening to GBN." He says, "Are you near your computer?" And I said, "No, I'm getting ready to go to work." And he says, "Please." And he sent me the link, and I turned on. And when I turned on the link, and I heard, because the Jab, by and large, protest, George. They may not protest with a written placard, but they will protest in the Jab chant. And that's a traditional way in which they do it. But to hear the live stream of naked obscenities hurled to the mother of an individual as the general Jab chant, and to listen that this is being streamed live by a national radio station, I found was a total disgrace.
All right, let me just ask you, Senator.
Let me finish. I want to finish. I immediately called you.
Just pause on this. Let me just ask you to pause to correct the records.
No, well, there's no record to correct. I immediately called you.
So go ahead and wrap up, and then we'll correct the records.
And ask you. Yeah. I immediately called you and asked you if you were aware of this, and you said no. And I gave you the details of where you can go to get it. And soon thereafter, in fact, I don't think 5 minutes passed, the guy who was then streaming the thing live then began to say, GBN streaming live and direct, it is not responsible for what is being streamed, it is streaming what the people are saying. And I just shook my head in total amazement that a radio station, that a broadcast station, in fact, if I was the chairman of the Broadcast Authority, I would pull your license. If I was the chairman, and then let you come and appeal. Because we must have standards. First of all, the use of obscene language in public is a criminal offense in Grenada. And to have a national radio station broadcasting live obscene language hurled at the mother of an individual is just totally unacceptable. So when we are talking about discipline, this is what I'm saying to you. It is not just a government or police or state responsibility. The state has various respected arms. The church is an arm of the state. The media is an arm of the state. It may not have direct state connection, but it plays a role in reinforcing the generalized discipline that we have accepted. We have accepted a certain amount of generalized discipline. And Randal knows what I'm talking about because he has become the victim of the most vulgar form of abuse of something that I have seen posted on the internet, assailing him and others by somebody who I understood was once a Grenada queen. And I shudder as to how we get here.
Right. So thank you, Senator Humphrey, for that interjection. You've been on for 5 minutes. Thank you so much. Let me just explain to our viewers and listeners. Senator Humphrey, it is imperative that when we're giving information that we are clear with how we relate that information. To say that the national station in Grenada carried such what would he want to call it, insults and some of the things that you accuse us of is not true. The national station, Grenada Broadcasting Network, which runs classic radio, K105, GBN Television, and Hot 98, never did. What happened was, my father would say, what happened was that the social media page of the GBN we had a freelancer who was streaming on the page. When the matter was brought to my attention, as you quite alluded to, you called, I sought to have the matter rectified and to ensure that we ascribe, whether it's also on social media or not, to the highest broadcast standards that the GBN has set and continues to ascribe to. So I just wanted to make sure that we set the record straight. And Senator, let me thank you so much that from time to time you bring things to our attention and we seek to ensure that we stick within the confines of the law and public decency. I hope that I have set the record straight. Randal, one of the things that we have found is that the media, especially the GBN, has been accused of being responsible for what transpired. And some people are wondering whether it's asymptomatic of a societal problem that we have. Do you agree with those?
Well, you see, Odette, what it speaks to is a kind of non-coordinated response to what we should be doing in a pandemic. So for instance, if we are talking that there's no carnival and no carnival-like activities or whatever as the case might be, and we decide this is the way we must go, then it is incumbent on the government, I would think, to sit down with all the media houses and so on and say, here now, this is what we want to do, and we want to promote, responsible behavior among our people and so on. So we're asking you, let me just ease up. But apart from them doing that, they also need to speak to the artists and so on, the people who are responsible, so that there's a holistic approach to it. You can't blame the media station, because a lot of artists produce a lot of music for the season and so on, and they weren't told anything. They've been getting a bly outside there, and of course people want, the popularity and all of that. So I wouldn't give GBN all the blame for that. GBN has to live too in the pandemic. We could work things out. That's why I'm saying that there was no stopping an artist from producing music during this time and so on, and he has to live too. But there's a way that all of that could have been done, and we could have had, enjoyed the season, so to speak, safely in our places if we brought our creative minds to bear on the thing. There was no holistic approach. GBN was left to do what it wants. Promoters were left to do what they want. And this is just a culmination of all of these things coming together now. So here's where we are, and I'm hoping that I'm looking forward, Odette. I don't know, given what is happening now, if next year is even a possibility for Carnival, if we're thinking about it. And given what has happened now, we need to be very careful how we go forward from here. So there has to be that coordinated approach. And again, somebody made the thing about Prime Minister Mia Mottley and how she, I met Prime Minister Mia Mottley years ago when Clinton was, President Bill Clinton was coming to the Caribbean. And I was the manager of the Lydian Singers in Trinidad, and Pat Bishop, who then, Billy Miller was the acting prime minister. I think Owen Arthur was out of the country. And she is Pat's best friend. So I met Billy Miller because I met Mia Mottley as the junior minister. They were very close to the thing. And she has been always close to the youth, very, very close to the youth, right? Grew up in her party's youth arm and so on. And I always remember that relationship because Arturo Tapin came out to lunch with us and so on. And every young person along the route, Mia knew, would call her out and so on, and she was a parliamentarian at that point in time. So she has been very close to her people and has been able to bridge that kind of divide, So I'm not surprised at the kind of prime minister that she is today, because this is who she is, And I think we could take a page from her book.
Okay. Junior, your take on the media being blamed for what transpired? I was actually told that Odette Campbell promoted this. I was told so on Friday.
Yeah, well, I'm not on the ground in Grenada to catch everything that GBN broadcasts on its platform. on television. I oftentimes get to see excerpt of the news or the news, so I'm not in the position to answer that question. But as to the reason why I think, and Randal kind of spoke to it briefly, if there is no carnival, if they say no carnival, there should be no carnival. How people saw it was that, okay, there is no carnival, but certain sector was allowed to celebrate and outlet that social anxiety that they had within them, and the other sector was not able to do that. So the sector, the percentage of the people who felt like there was a double standard, they felt like they needed to protest. And I continue to come back to that protest because that's how I saw it. There's a lot of social anxiety happening in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique for every single thing. So I wouldn't put the blame squarely on GBN because, again, I don't know. I'm not familiar with all your programming, so I really don't know. But I just know that people saw it as that double standard of what's happening here, and so what we need to get out too. We need to have fun too. We need to do something as well. And they felt like that was not happening, so they feel the need to go out and protest.
And as we talk about where to from here, Mrs. Mason Francis, we're getting ready to wrap it up. Your thoughts on how do we escape from this? How do we emerge and go back to that good place?
First of all, before I answer your question, I would like to congratulate the police force on the manner, the way in which they handled this whole situation. Because these people, we blame them many times for how they do things and this, that, and what they should do. But this whole thing in Grenada over the weekend, and before that, how it was handled, it was professionally done, and you could see a lot of thought went into it. The police was spoken to and told what should be done. Because if any one of them tried at any point to go say they're arresting somebody, well, all hell breaks loose. So it was very well done, and I would love to congratulate them on this. Now, I might be very biased saying I'm a fan of GBN. They do nonsense sometimes, and I would talk to people about it, but I am one of GBN's fans. All the different programs. And there are times during the day when I would call Godfrey or whoever and say, you made my day with the sort of music you played for me today, all the old tunes and so on, certain things. And I suppose some people don't listen all the time, but when I'm at home, my radio is on, so I'm not sitting up in front of the TV, but I hear what's going on. So throughout the day, you could pick up. And you have times and programs, to suit whatever is happening. So I don't have that sort of attitude. I mean, yes, you do wrong things sometimes. I say I have to call you up and tell you, well, look, so, things you could improve on. So, Senator Humphrey, again, well, I am, how should I put it, a child of the world, a strict person, a disciplinarian, but dancing and music and all these things, that is my line. Now, for the future and improvement, again, the powers that be, everybody has to get to the table and sit and discuss what went on and involve people who can make a contribution and say how things should be. The church has a role to play, a very important role, everybody. And again, I am begging people to leave party politics out of their discussion. We are people, Grenadian people, and we're getting together as people, not politicians, to discuss what is best for our people. Young people, don't think I was once young and I'm still young. And I like all the fetting and the dancing and everything that they all do. I am still one of those. So when I talk about young people and what is happening, I am looking at the future. You are bringing up the children now, the future of tomorrow. And if you do not train them properly, love them, but train them and discipline them. My consolation, as I always tell people, I will be out soon. I'm on my way out, so I won't have to live with what is happening. But I want to see improvement again on the discipline of our children. Love them, but discipline them. And I leave this message to all of you. The future is ours. Grenada belongs to us. It's not young people, old people, in between them. Everybody has a role to play. So may we all get together and involve one another for the future of our country.
Yes. Yes.
Junior, I'm going to leave the last word to Randal in studio. Your closing thoughts. You're saying amen to the preacher.
Yeah, no, preach it. I just want to add to what she just said, that the police, I think the police did a great job. I mean, they didn't use the artillery to calm. They used good sense, and it prevailed during there. So I just want to say kudos to the police. And as it relates to the media, I know the same media is everybody's scapegoat. I mean, the media will be held responsible for everything. But I think that the media still have a part to play in even encouraging people to understand and giving people correct statistics about the variants that's out there, and educating people more about vaccine and not the mandation of vaccination, but just to give people education as to why some people should go ahead and get the vaccine. I think we have a part to play in those aspects. Even on my little platform, I do a lot of those and talking to people about, people might have, they see things out there and they're scared about it, and they see videos circulating and they believe it. And so I think that's the part that we need to play. But again, Odette, we as media people will always get played. The media is a scapegoat for everything. So that's where I'm leaving. But kudos to the police, and good sense prevail for Carnival this year. Well, for unofficial Carnival this year.
Junior, you just said that they come in and get you. You see where your brain was trying to go on both sides. You finally let it out from the abundance of the heart. Randal, my friend. Closing thoughts are yours.
Yeah, I just want to join everybody in commending the police for letting good sense prevail, for using emotional intelligence and putting it in practice, and avoiding more conflict than was necessary. But I want to encourage that as we go forward with the uncertainty of when this pandemic is going to be over. There are 4 billion people who have received vaccines already, 4 billion, right? And that is, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We're heading in the right direction. We are hearing a lot of negative talk about vaccines and so on. It is time that probably the politicians step out of the way and let the professional medical personnel get involved in sitting down with communities and discussing the way forward. We only have the AstraZeneca vaccine available to us in Grenada at this point in time. Hopefully we will have some choices going forward. AstraZeneca, from all the information, is not the best thing for everybody. Right? There are some people who shouldn't have it or whatever as the case might be. We need some options. But Odette, apart from all that vaccine talk and so on, it is critical now, given where we are at this point in time with our youth and the sense of hopelessness sometimes that I feel that the youth are expressing. Now, it is critical that we sit down with our young people and have open and honest dialogue. Open and honest dialogue. Sit down together, let them shout, let them say, get the frustration off, and we must listen, because let me tell you something. A lot of young people are graduating school 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 subjects and just sitting at home. They don't have anything to do, and they're seeing people who didn't do as well as them involved in little jobs about the place and so on. They getting paid, and I did all that I was supposed to do in school, and I'm sitting here frustrated, and there's no opportunity for me, no scholarships to go anywhere as the case might be. And we have to have that conversation, otherwise this is going to boil over into something that none of us wants to see. With respect for authority, it is time that we pay attention to that as well. If we continue to promote a disrespectful society, where are we going to end up? Where are we going to end up down the road? Then none of us is going to be happy in any position of authority as we go forward. So I'm appealing to everybody, let's sit around the table. Yes, now is not the time for party politics. Now is the time for us to sit as Grenadians and try to deal with the issues that we face, you know?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Randal. I want to say thank you to our panelists, my beloved principal, Mrs. Glenda Mason-Francis, Junior George, our man in diaspora, keeps his finger on the pulse on all that's happening. Junior, it was really wonderful to have you on this journey with us this evening. And Randal.
Odette, it feels funny because I'm usually the host, so I just had to play the guest role.
I got it on you this evening. I got it on you this evening, boy. I've got one up. But it's really wonderful, Junior, to have had you. And Randal, you raised me up. Give me one line, Randal. One line. You know you can't get over whenever you come here. One line.
When I'm down and oh, my soul's so weary. I forget how it goes.
When troubles come.
When troubles come and my heart burden be, then I am strong. And whatever the lyrics are from there. You see, you all know it better than me.
You raised me up to more than I can be. You raised me up so I could climb on mountains.
Really?
You raised me up so I could walk on stormy seas.
But I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. Something like that. Right?
Something like that.
Yes.
I wanted to sing it up. I wanted to join in it, but I'm close to the volcano.
Yeah, right. Did I cause it to you? And I just want to say that, I dedicate that line to the family of a good friend of mine who had an unfortunate demise today. Some of you would have heard of Ron Leslie of the Glen at Mongay.
It's a friend of mine. So.
Very sweet soul. But we got the sad news today that there was a tragic end. To Deanne and family, we say, hang tight. God is good. He is able. In the midst of everything, He's going to take you through. We take you out on that note that, you have a little stress, call me. Call Randal. Call Miss Mason-Francis. There's somebody there to listen. And you're contemplating something, somebody will be able to help. The impossible will be made possible. Godspeed. Until next week, I'm Odette Campbell. Thanks, everybody. For everybody who contributed in one way or another, God bless you. Randal and Miss Mason-Francis, I'm eternally grateful to you. I feel so happy to have company for the first time in 17 months.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Akim Williams, thank you so much for being our sidekick this evening. And to Kellen Batiste and Timon Parrott over in Master Control. God bless you. Godfrey Augustine, thanks for rallying with us. We'll see you again next Monday.